and they just butt up against one another. They don't overlap.
They don't overlap? Okay.
Well, they can't overlap.
Okay.
So what Jimmy's doing here is he's installing the rings on these. He's going to kind of explain what he's actually doing. So
Be sure to put the piston rings in, and when you put the oil ring in, the oil ring, you just make sure that you put it in, and I usually put the end of it over one of the skirts.
Okay.
Then when you use the spacer ring, you have to make,
Nice catch.
you wind it. I always start over one of the wrist pin holes, kind of push it in with your thumb, hold it down, and you have to make sure that you don't overlap these rings. They can't really go overlap, but the reason being, because it won't fit in the groove, possibly. Okay, now the next one, I turn this around to the. I usually turn this around to the
Opposite side.
to the wrist pin hole, and then I put the other one over here.
On this side of the wrist pin?
Yeah, on the opposite wrist pin. Start it on the top of the ring.
Okay.
Just kind of let it flow down, push it around. Now, when you put the second piston ring in, the middle ring, you want to be a little careful with this one. The piston ring, a lot of them have a dot on the top of them. So if it's got a dot on it, they usually go up. Read your instructions. But there again, you start piston ring in very gently.
Work your way around.
Don't ever get abusive with this thing because it's a very unforgiving piece of metal and it will go snap. And you turn it to where it's over the wrist pin hole, because every time the piston rocks in the hole up and down, when the rod snaps over and pulls it back down, the piston will get a little rock to it, okay? That is the least amount of movement. And when it rocks, it cocks the piston in the hole. So the rings are sitting here going like this. You just wear the rings out sooner. So if you put them there over the wrist pin hole, they have the least amount of movement. They last longer. And they don't wear the pistons out neither.
It makes a lot of sense.
For a race engine, it's a different story than a street engine. But in this case, it's not a race engine. So there we go.
So to kind of recap here on the actual oil ring, you have the oil ring gaps on each side of your pin, one facing each way, and same thing with your actual top and bottom rings.
Right.
So they're actually facing the opposite way of each other. Jimmy explained why we do that, and so that one's done.